Hello everyone, welcome to this video and welcome to my channel. In my last video, I discussed how I replaced my four control buttons on my game console Monoretro with a PS2 joystick, right? So instead of the four control buttons for controlling a character like left, right, up and down, I'll be using a joystick now, and as well as for the fire button, instead of using a fire button to fire in the games or shoot enemies, I'll be using the joysticks button to do the same thing, like shooting or firing enemies. I also mentioned towards the end of the video that I'm also thinking of, or rather I'm also trying to find an alternative for the Raspberry Pi Pico development board, perhaps a board which is much smaller than Raspberry Pi Pico if possible. So this video I'm going to give you an update on the same thing. So I've decided indeed to replace Raspberry Pi Pico board with a RP2040 Zero development board. It's a board which is much smaller compared to Raspberry Pi Pico, and it's also fully compatible with Raspberry Pi Pico development board, which means like most of the pin configurations, the I2C pins, the ADC pins, those are fully same and compatible with Raspberry Pi Pico development board. So yeah, this video I'm going to show you guys how I'm using RP2040 Zero board in my staging setup in place of Raspberry Pi Pico. As always, let's get started. So as with any MCU development board, for RP20 Zero development board as well, you will find all the documentation online. So before jumping to the staging setup and seeing it in action, let's check it out online once. This is how the board looks like. As you can see from the picture itself, the form factor is way smaller than that of a Raspberry Pi Pico, and this is the most important thing. This is the pin layout, and if you see, it's as I mentioned, it's pretty same as that of Raspberry Pi Pico. So the pins that we will be interested in are these ones, primarily GP4 and GP5, which is pretty much our SDA and SCL. This will be connected to our OLED display, the SSD 1306 OLED display. And then in the last video we introduced GP26 and GP27, which is also ADC0 and ADC1. This will be used for the x-axis and y-axis tracking for the PS2 joystick, right? So these two are also as ETs. It's like 26 and 27, and we have got the ground, the voltage output pin for the development board, and the remaining pins that we'll be using are pin number 14, GP14 for the selector button, and pin number 9 for the shooting button, which is the joystick button. And also the other thing which differs in case of the RP2040 Zero MCU board is the USB connector or the USB port. So for Raspberry Pi Pico we had a USB type B USB port, but in RP2040 Zero we have a type C USB port, which shouldn't affect us that much, but yeah, it's just a change. So you'll be needing a type C USB cable to upload your code to this RP2040 MCU board instead of a type B cable. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the pin diagram, and that's all we are going to use. And yeah, let's see how it looks on the staging environment, which is pretty much my breadboard. So yeah, this is the new setup on my staging environment that is on the breadboard. So it's pretty much the same setup connection wise what I showed in my last or in my previous video. The main component that has changed is the MCU development board. So this blue colored board is the RP2040 Zero MCU development board, and as I have already mentioned too many times now, this is way smaller and shorter in height when you compare it to the Raspberry Pi Pico development board. So I have my old board here, and you can simply compare the size. It's the RP2040 Zero board is so much shorter than in length than this Pi Pico board, and this is the board, this is the one which I had been using in all my past videos for testing stuff. And so I've just replaced this with, let my camera focus, yeah, so I've replaced this with the RP2040 Zero development board. And as you can see, it is using a type C. It is using a type C USB connector, and because it has a type C USB port, right? The things that you get with this is you get a reset button, you get a boot button, very helpful, and it mentions here RP2040 Zero, right? And this variant didn't come with the header connectors soldered, so I soldered them myself, but I have soldered these wires as well with the pins because I'll be using it in a separate project where I need this wire soldered. In this case, I'm just using the header connector pins and the breadboard for support, because I'm just using the soldered wire for the actual connections, right? So yeah, that's that. And the connections are pretty much same. Like this is the PS2 switch, the PS2 joystick, and these are connected to the pins 26. It's a bit once again it's a bit difficult to show, but yeah, it's connected to pin 26 and 27, the ADC pins, and the display is once again connected to GP4 and 5, which are again the SDA and the SCK. Sorry, the SDA and the SCL, right? And that's it pretty much. And we have the selected button here as well, which is again connected to the development board, and the working is pretty much the same. So let me just show you. Here is my joystick, and the same code works perfectly fine on RP2040 Zero MCU board. No changes required to code, and it's fully compatible with pico development board, and you can see it, everything works out of the box. We just select this time let me select Pong, because last time I believe I showed with Space Invader. Actually, let me just go with Space Invader, because I can once again show the shooting or firing button as well. So now I'll just select Space Invaders, and please excuse the wires. I just don't want to touch the wires too much, because once again it might cause jitter. So still, let me just try to move these wires a little bit. Hopefully it won't. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so let me just try to bring both the joystick and the screen in the frame, and yeah, if I press hit, I'm able to shoot. I'm able to go left and right. The y-axis already works, because that's how I was able to navigate the menu, and yeah, it works perfectly fine, same as how it worked in the last video with Raspberry Pi Pico development board. And so yeah, that's it. So the code and my Monoretro program is working perfectly fine on RP2040 Zero development board. This is the update that I wanted to share in this video. Now in the next version of Monoretro, the next build of Monoretro, I'll be using RP2040 Zero as the development board. As I already mentioned, I'll be using this PS2 joystick, and the selector button remains, and I hope the next build will be way smaller than what it was in the one before. And yep, thank you all for watching this video, and see you all next time.